Hello, welcome to today's lecture. But instead of lecture, podcast. Once a week I do a crime podcast on the Royal Black and Elite. And I think today you will find this one extremely disturbing and interesting, but heartbreaking at the same time. I want to introduce you to a man named Lawrence E. King. Now, when you think of Omaha, Nebraska, you think of quiet, family communities, not much going on. But in the mid 1980s, it was a hotbed of scandal, economic scandal, and another kind of scandal. So you see the title of the video. And I think you're going to really find this interesting. I'm Lady TrenettWilson. I want to thank all of my Royalers for tuning in. And if you're new, hello, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Now, Lawrence was a native of Nebraska. He was born in Omaha in 1944. Now, he went on to get his degree from the University of Omaha in 1972 in business. But before he ever graduated, he had already become the treasurer and manager at a new bank that had opened up for the black community there in Omaha, and it was to serve the black community. It was called the Franklin Community Federal Credit Union. Now, this brother was flying high. He was on boards all throughout the community, and he and his wife, Alice, they were well respected, owning things like bars and restaurants, which kind of made my eye go up because the boards that he was on, you would think he didn't own bars. Let me tell you, he was on the board of the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, the Campfire Girls, and even the ballet. All of this notoriety got him attention from his party. He was a Republican and he began to move up within the Republican ranks. He was chairman of the finance committee for the National Black Republican Council. And he sung at the National Convention for the Republicans in 1984 in my home state of Texas. Now, they said King was so connected that he knew the president himself. So that's why the next part of his story is so shocking. You see, King was accused of stealing money from the bank. And let me tell you, not just a little money, but a lot of money, up to $40 million that he apparently had embezzled since 1970. Now, I don't understand how a person can steal, this was 88, for almost 20 years, $40 million and never got checked. However, as this story unfolds, I think we may see a little bit as to why he wasn't punished right away, allegedly. Now, he was charged in 1988 by a federal grand jury on a wide array of financial crimes. He strongly denied it, and one thing about this man is he never gave an interview. He shut up. He didn't say nothing ever. You never saw him on the news except for these stories, and you never saw him do an interview. And Alice was quiet too. Nobody heard of Alice again after this scandal broke. How embarrassing. He's stealing all of this money. He also stayed mum when he was accused of something even worse. He was accused of being the Jeffrey Epstein of the 1980s. Let me tell you how and why. I say this about this man allegedly. Allegedly, there are children who came forward during this time. This is during the time that he was being investigated and charged with this $40 million theft. So these children came forward and they were kids from foster care and a lot of little boys from a place called Boys Town. Now, Boys Town was a place that little boys who were in foster care, who had no home, would stay. And it was said that King would meet these kids, because remember, he was a board on all these kiddie boards, and he would meet these kids there through these organizations, going to these events. Those organizations were never charged or not even, said that they had anything to do with it. They probably didn't even know what's going on. But this man was a predator, allegedly. Now, it's said that these children testified that he would fly them all across the country for them to serve old politicians, businessmen, and not even old celebrities, but celebrities. And he did this himself also, taking advantage of these children. Now, everybody was giving him the side eye. An investigation immediately began. The problem was the man that was charged with investigating, he was hired to investigate. Apparently, they said that he had gotten all of this information and he was on his way back home with pictures and I mean all kinds of proof to prove that this indeed truly happened. Well, unfortunately, he and his son were unalive while flying back home. The plane broke apart in the air. His name was Gary Cardori. And that is, it. How does your plane break apart? What happened to all the evidence? And then all of a sudden, the children began to recant their stories, and kids began to get intimidated and scared. And by now, they weren't kids anymore. These were young adults. And they were saying what had happened over these last 20 years. So things began to get real rocky. Began to get real nervous. And can you believe the grand jury said that, nah, he didn't do anything. There's no evidence. These kids, they recanting their stories, which is horrible. And not only that, they charged the people, two in particular, who had told their stories. They charged them with perjury. And one of them, they sentenced to prison for 9 to 15 years in 1991. The young lady did 4 years. So I think that's why it took so long for people to again come out and tell the truth. Because when this happened, and it was called the Franklin cover up, y'all, many people lost their lives behind this story. And there was a lot of cover up because it led to the White House. And still to this day, the truth of what really happened never came out. But we know what happened with Mr. King. Mr. King went to prison. He took a plea deal and he did 10 years. And he never said a word. He never told on nobody. He never admitted to anything. He just did his time, got out, and you've never heard anything from him again. Now, unlike Jeffrey, I guess he didn't know enough. I guess they told him to keep your mouth shut, allegedly, and perhaps you can keep your life. So that's what he did. So that is the story. We needed to know Lawerence E. King. If you have never heard of him, will you please share this video? Let other people know about people like him, predators within the community. And I don't even think that nowadays that is even party affiliation. I believe it is good against evil. And you've got to know what side that you are on. And he was definitely, allegedly, on the evil side. So I hope that you enjoyed today's lecture. What do you think about that afro? There were no pictures for this man. I mean, this man moved in silence. Even though he was high up in all of these political circles, the pictures of him with these politicians have been scrubbed. I have not been able to find any. So I hope you enjoyed these little pictures that was able to find. Look how he let this place go into disrepair. Those pictures of how the credit union, a beacon of hope for the black community. And he just took it and stole from it, took advantage of people and children and families, allegedly. And so I just thought we needed to know this. As always, my lectures are for entertainment and educational purposes only. I really want to thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Leave your comments down below. Have you ever heard the story? Y'all, we have to protect our children. We really, really must. So thank you for joining me for another great episode of Royal Black and Elite. Continue to learn about history by clicking on another video right down below. Thanks for watching.